I just want to really celebrate you. And I can only imagine launching a book in the middle of a fire and your home and your kids. I know I have a copy of it, Abundant Ever After.
You're in it. I mentioned you in the book.
Yay, thank you. I mean, this book it's meditation, it's manifesting, it's ancient wisdom. It's like this beautiful transmission of who you are and what you live and what you are a living example of and what I'm so passionately sharing and studying. But the thing I want to come back to, because we're definitely going to get into the book, is just your grace in navigating this. And it's like, this is the go time, right? It's like when we get challenged, when we face these crises of culture and of spirituality, like this is what we have been training for. This is what we have been preparing for. And so I want to celebrate you on like, okay, well, maybe this location change could be a gift, or maybe this is teaching me some new lesson that I haven't learned yet.
Yeah. I mean, it really is fascinating. And I feel as though, while a lot of people in my life are experiencing this collectively who live in Los Angeles, it's almost as if I feel like there is a multiverse. And just like in the movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's like there is every possibility in the infinite field. And it's almost as if I am personally co-creating this for myself because my soul knows that I need it. Because my friend had said to me, "What's your word for the year?" And I go, "Well, I'm choosing between two, I think." And she's like, "What are they?" And I said, "Cozy and liberation." It's like, it's so interesting because here we are, and we often, the mind is such a creature of wanting to control because it makes it feel safe. And so we hold on really tightly to what we believe will give us that sense of security, right? And the soul wants to be in infinite possibility, which means it's the opposite of certainty, is infinite possibility. So it's about releasing control. It's about allowing ourselves to be in the mystical dance of what's next and what's a surprise and what's magical. And so we go from being here, starting the year, and then January 7th, 4 doors down, the house is on fire. We have a minute to leave our house. I'm leaving the house with literally flip-flops on, grab my kids, grab the cats, get in the car, don't know where we're going, start calling hotels. They're like, we're full, because people have been evacuating all day. And I started driving, and my friend in San Diego who lives on a ranch in Rancho Santa Fe said to me, "Get down here." I'm like, I have 3 kids. I don't know how long I'm coming. I don't know if I'm coming for a day. I have to land somewhere. She's like, "Just get down here." I'm like, okay. So we drive down there, and it's dark when we get there, and we pull up, and she gives us some dinner, and it feels like love. And I realized that home is wherever love is. And so there I was again, feeling home in that feeling of love and connection. And then even more magical, we wake up and literally hear the rooster. And my daughter says, she's 8, she's like, "Oh my gosh, she said that there were chickens. Can I go down and feed the chickens?" And I said, "Yeah." And we walk outside, and I'm wearing the only thing I brought with me, which was the sweatpants I had on. And I'm wearing my sandals, and we go down to the chicken coop, and my friend Heidi meets us down there. And my 8-year-old is in it. She's feeding chickens. She then gets on a horse. She's horseback riding. She's then later on like in the garden with her hands, like in the fertilizer. And I'm weeping such happy, joyful, potent tears because we just saw the earth go up in flames. And now we have watering cans and we're watering these seeds. And I'm looking out over the horizon because she lives on a ranch. And I'm thinking to myself, what on earth was I thinking was the thing I was so attached to when there's another reality that I now have been dropped into, which is so magnetic. She's literally on a farm with chickens, and I'm thinking to myself that all that there is that I need to hold so tightly to is the intensity of the Black Diamond Run life, which is skiing a Black Diamond every day to live in LA. Like the amount of like things that you realize that you can do just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's like, right? You get so used to your nervous system being at a certain heightened state. And then here we were, and I was like, oh my God, what if there's a whole other way to live our life?
Yeah.
What if Mother Nature is calling out to people saying, I know that you've been building structures, but I want you to spend time with the energy that is in the earth, in your soul, in the atmosphere, rather than running around, in your cars, driving around to build things that ultimately are temporary,
Yeah.
when what's inside of you is lasting and timeless. So
Mm.
there was so many lessons in that as well. And also I agree that it is the practice that allows us to surrender and be like, of course, like here we go into the looking glass. This is what I prepare for every day in my meditation. So this is why I have that practice, so that when life gets very lifey, there you are, right?
Yeah,
And
I think
same
life's going to get real lifey this year.
real lifey this year.
Real lifey. I mean, it feels like, and I'm curious your view on this. I think I heard Marianne Williamson say it one way, and then I heard Lynn Twist say it another way recently. But I think it feels so true to me that we are being simultaneously asked to be death doulas of the dying of the systems and the civilizations that were not sustainable, and to be birth doulas into the
Yeah.
birthing of the new earth. And to do those both simultaneously requires mastery.
My friend Casey Means, who's so brilliant, she's such an incredible wizard of a person. She wrote this book called Good Energy, which is all about really understanding what to put into your body and how to like upregulate your cells by really tapping into the mitochondria and bioluminescence that our souls just know how to repair when we feed ourselves good energy. And but she said to me, listen, she goes, everyone talks about how there's like this moment right now where there's like a great awakening and we're like, moving into like greater consciousness. And she's like, yes. And we've been so much further as a humanity, as a species. It's a reclaiming of where we once were. She said, nobody wants to talk about that because then you have to look at how we regressed.
Yeah. Or
But
just cycles, expansion, contraction,
right.
expansion,
But she
contraction.
said the reason I like to recall like the days of like, there's so many beautiful rivers that lead to the same ocean of truth. And like I've been studying Judaism and Jewish mysticism, but like you think about like the days of Abraham, right? Like you think of these people who once walked this earth, who had the capacity to like literally channel such medicine. I mean, this man, Abraham, like we know that he wrote this book called the Sefer Yetzirah, which is carbon dated, that we know it's the oldest living document that wrote out the zodiac, right? Like he was able to feel the energy of each month, which is why the Jewish calendar is the lunar calendar, and each of those months has an energy to it. The fact that there have been people, right? Siddhartha, Moses, like the fact that we've been there before, where we've ascended to a place where we could really bend the 3D and really connect the wisdom of sort of the infinite into the finite. It means that actually that's a good thing because we know how to do it. Meaning this big awakening, we're really just returning to that which we were innately embedded. There is a code in us that has done it. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that the souls that are here at this time are here for such a time as this, because they are the souls that are activated and know how to help us to return to that ultimate state of alignment. But I agree. Yes, all of that is happening.
And it feels like what you're mentioning is this ancient future, right? That like the future will require the codes of the ancient civilizations. And if we do not use the ancient wisdom to inform the future that we are walking into, then it's like what you were saying, it's like everything everywhere all at once. I imagine that in LA right now, there are infinite fractals of reality and reactions and possibilities. And as systems that have been built start to crumble, banking, almost everything, the government, news, healthcare, like as all of these systems either crumble or evolve beyond recognition, like the amount of potential reactions to that is quite mind-boggling. And so I think if we do not have these ancient practices like meditation, like if we don't actively manifest and create the reality, if we don't create and birth the new earth that we want to see, then we're going to be the victims of like infinite chaos. And so I think that your book, while it's called Abundant Ever After, but you're such an amazing bridge between the ancient and the future, and you do such an amazing job about talking about manifestation. And I was gonna theme today's episode of why isn't everyone attracting abundance, because everyone wants to talk about money, and you're one of our few second time guests. And in the first interview, you talked about being a receiver and that you can always just tune your brain to the
conversation we had. I hardly ever post people's clips from their shows just because I don't always find them as riveting as the way that you hold space. But I have like gone back to that interview that you did with me because there's something so powerful in your medicine that like brought out such a just a really special, cool connection of a lot of things. And so, yes, I loved that first conversation and any conversation. And I just love listening to you anytime, whether it's with me or just listening to you talk in general.
Thanks, Cathy. And it truly is like one of my favorite interviews and one of our most popular episodes. And you really do speak about manifestation in a way that is so clarifying. And the thing that I just want to help people connect is maybe like the altruistic version of manifestation, because, and I think selfishly we all start for ourselves, right? I want to attract the man, I want to attract the money, I want to attract the abundance. But right now we literally have an opportunity to birth the new earth. Like as these systems start to crumble, we quite literally are being asked to manifest what is the reality that we want to live in. What does heaven on earth look like, feel like, taste like, look like, act like to you? And so can you help us string these threads of like the same skills that we would use to attract abundance for ourselves, the same skills we would use to manifest for our personal lives? How can we start to do that collectively and start to manifest as a species?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that the heart and the head are playing two different songs. And the song that's in your head is telling you that the more that you get, the more that you get. And the heart is telling you the more you give, the richer you feel. Right.
Mm.
And the heart is always an overflow. All it wants to do, it's like a mother when you're nursing. If you don't give, your boobs actually they're painful. Like you have to give it. It feels so good. And one of the reasons we love being in love is because we love to give that love that we have inside of us to something else, to someone else. Like the fact that we get to contribute and feel it's not about everyone's like, I want to be successful. It's like, I think you want to be significant. You feel significant when your life itself, your beingness itself makes another person's life different. That feels like riches, right? And so, I had a couple experiences that I've been talking about, and I have these experiences all the time. But one thing that happened for me was the summer my dad passed away,
This
and
summer?
yeah, this past summer, 6 months
Sorry.
ago, and we had this like beautiful week in hospice, and it's really fascinating when you are literally stripped to sitting beside someone's bed. You don't leave the room to go to sleep. You sleep there in the chair. You don't get up to brush your teeth. You're just there. And you are 100% feeling as though nothing else is needed other than being in this room with this person and wanting to make sure that before the sun goes down on this person's last breath, that you have given everything you can give and that you've received everything you're meant to receive from this person, which is a gift to that person, right? And so I just kept saying to my dad, I know now, like, I know how much you love me. And he kept saying, are you sure? Are you sure? You got it? You got it? I go, Dad, I want you to know that I got it. Like, I promise. I promise. I promise. And I said, and I love you forever, like forever. And he was like, okay. And he was like, this is all that I ever wanted. And like on his wall, there were all the diplomas from like Johns Hopkins and Columbia where he was like, that's not my doctorate. Like, that's not my accomplishment. Like, you're my greatest accomplishment. Like, I wish I could go back and like take all the times that I was busy trying to achieve and selfishly give to you, because that's what feels the best to me, is the moments I can remember making you raisin toast before we caught the bus in the morning, and all of those moments, because that's what I'm taking with me. Like, that was me being the happiest me because I was providing something to someone that I love doing. That I love giving, right? Why does a mother love her child? Why does a mother love a baby more than the baby loves the mother in that moment? It's like, because you invest in it, you give to it that which you, if someone tells you to take care of their cat while they're away or take care of their plants, you will love those plants because of what you get to give. And so we are put here thinking, our mind sends us on a wild goose chase, sending us this signal like, you're always in lack, you need more, you need more. It's like, no, you're actually full, you're abundant, you are literally at max fullness all the time. Your heart has an endless capacity to give. And when you recognize and claim how much you have to give, and you just start realizing wherever you go, You can be significant at the DMV. You can be significant to your neighbor. You can be significant at the bus stop. You are now literally cellularly changing the biology of people around you because your love itself is a medicine and it wires people in. Just talking to your plants makes their cellular biology change. How much more so when you're giving away love for no reason to the person you just walked past in the subway, right? How much more so? Like, what does that do for you? You're the recipient of what you just gave away, because how good does it feel to you to know that you are a masterpiece, a piece of the master, that you are this walking ambassador for godliness. You are no different from the source of the universe. And when you claim that and know that, it's like you feel totally abundant. There's nothing that you need to achieve. There's no book deal you need. It's like you have this capacity. So I want to give you an example. My dad passed away. We go through the Shiva process. It was so beautiful. And about 2 weeks after the Shiva and after my dad's hospice time, my kids were like, okay, can we go out? Can we go do something? Like, we've been in this like death mode for like 5-6 weeks. I said, yeah. So we decide we're going to go take them to see Despicable Me, Despicable Me 45, whatever number it was.
I'm pretty sure it's 45. Yep.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 45. And so we decide we're going to go get sushi before the movie. So we go to the sushi place and we're sitting there and I'm finding re-entry into the world like kind of weird. Like, I notice how loud the world is or how unconscious people are when you're sitting in a hospice room or you're sitting in a Shiva house. There's a lot of presence. People come into a Shiva house. Shiva is most people know it, but like you've seen it in a movie, it's the 7 days where in a Jewish household, you literally, Shiva means to sit. You sit on the floor and people come to visit and you have space to just be in the sorrow and there's nothing you're required to do. You just sit for 7 days with letting yourself feel the feeling of this loss. That's it.
So good. Like, not to put a label on it, but just thank God that tradition is being preserved. Thank God that people are still doing it. And I wish that we could all give ourselves the gift of like, your dog dies, you move, you have a death,
oh my gosh,
a breakup. Like, we should be sitting Shiva for every death.
Right. It's really interesting because the same shoresh, the same root, shoresh means root. The word Shiva is the same letters, the shin, the vav. It's the same letters as the word Shabbat. This word to sit is actually the same word for meditation in Hebrew. And the very first time that's used in the Torah and the Bible is when Abraham is sitting and it says, and Abraham meditated, which is the same word for Shiva, the same word for Shabbat. And it says, when you sit in that meditation, the next thing that happened is God appears to him. And it's the idea that when we all, you know this better than most people I know, when you move into the connection to what is really, truly the I am within you, of course, God will appear to all of us. And so I was having this moment of like being back in the world and like everybody's moving out of that presence a little bit into sort of like, that distracted kind of like different sort of radio station that we get to. And we're sitting in the sushi restaurant. And I'm feeling a little out of sorts because it's my first time out. And I realize that what will make me feel better is to just give to somebody for no reason. It's like if I'm reminded like, oh yeah, as you said, how does the thread of abundance go from what we would love back to other people and on behalf of other people? So this is my example. I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling out of sorts. So my modus operandi, my tool is like, remember the love inside of you and give it to someone for no reason, because that's going to make you feel abundant. It's going to just move you back into synchronicity. So I turned to the couple sitting next to us and I said, are you guys on your first date? And she says to me, yeah, we actually are. And I said, oh, I was like kind of like overhearing you. I'm like, can I buy you dessert? Can you pick a dessert? So she's like, oh my God, that's so sweet. So she chooses this like fried ice cream because we're at the sushi place. And she goes, can you give me your social media? I would love to like stay in touch. And, I was like, sure. So we exchange social media. I leave. I'm in the movie. As we're leaving the movie, I check my phone and she DM'd me and she said, that was the sweetest thing that you gave us, that dessert. And it really meant a lot to me. And it was delicious. And I said, great. Well, are you going to go on a second date? And she said, I don't know, but I do want you to know something. She said, I'm a widow and this is my first date in 5 years since my husband died. And I said, you have no idea how significant that feels, because this is my first night out since my dad passed on July 3rd. And she said, well, you don't know how significant that is, because my husband, Jason, passed away on July 3rd, 5 years ago. And I loved that moment so much, because we think that what we're chasing in abundance is more followers, more money, more this, more that. It's like, what you actually want, you have such bigger dreams than that. It's like, you want to touch the face of God. You want a mystical experience. You want to feel synchronicity come hug you so tight that you're like, the world is a portal for transcendence at every second. It's like, what are the odds? Tell me what the mathematical percentages are that I would sit there 8 inches away from another table, give this random stranger a gift, and she turns back, which to me was such a wink from my father. He was so right there present in my life and is never going anywhere. And she was given that same gift. She said, do you know what it means to me that you and I share that date? She said, I've been putting off dating because I didn't want to leave my husband behind. And my first date comes and someone I don't know buys me a dessert, and you and I are sharing this of all the days in the calendar, like this is the date. She's like, you have no idea the gift that you just gave me. So our job is to recognize that when we are tapped into what we're really looking for outside of us, which is energy, right? Why do you want the car? You think it's going to make you feel like a badass. Why do you want to have that opportunity? Because you think it's going to make you claim your power. What if you claimed how much life force, how much creativity, how much love, how much blessing lives in you all the time? And then you don't need any of the material things, because they're all just an also. Because what you really want is to be like moving through the world, so in love with life, knowing that you are a portal for the divine blessing. And when you feel that way, what do? You bless everything in your path. And then 100%, you being lit up, you become a candle that lights other candles. That's how abundance works. So 100%, like, on behalf of the whole garden, on behalf of the collective, you flourish, you pollinate, you thrive. You've literally immediately increased the capacity for everything around you to touch that Wi-Fi, for everything around you to expand and to feel itself, what it actually is, which is a part of the I am, which is a part of the one.
Oh, Cathy, can you just go ahead and start your own church? Like, are you doing it? It's happening.
Yeah. I'm like, yes.
I want you on a pulpit. I mean, I guess it's happening now. You're on
it.
the pulpit. You're just such an amazing teacher. And the way that you communicate these ideas, like, they're so profound and simple and ancient and universally true, but the way that they come out of your mouth, so specifically your stories. I mean, this is like in acting, right? We were in acting school together, and like the great actors are the ones who are so specific. They are so uniquely them that it has this universal resonance. And I feel like that is how you are as a teacher.
Nice, especially coming from you, because I was in George Judy's class and I know how good of an actor you are. And that is such a great way to say it. That is why we love certain people. It's like, I think about these scenes from Good Will Hunting and I'm like, oh my God, it's the specificness, right? Of like, Robin Williams has this like incredible depth and also this humor. And it's like why he probably was too much of a like wizard to even stand being in the 3D reality, but like that is such an incredible compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember Fred Chappell. He's like, "Ooh, Emily, you got to be specific. You got to be more specific." Like it's just, and it's like, it's not like if an actor is trying to play angry, it falls flat. But if an actor is like, oh my God, the smell of that perfume is making me nauseous and inflamed in my throat, and I'm going to punch you in the face. It's like that specificity has the universal resonance. And the way that you tell these stories of these universal truths are so uniquely Cathy Heller that it has this beautiful frequency. Like I've cried on the podcast like 3 times, and they've like twice now I've been with you. And it's you telling these beautiful stories, and you're just an amazing teacher, and I'm glad that you exist on the planet.
Thank you, but that's so kind.
And also, like, I was reading your book and I was like, she's teaching. It was so interesting. It was like, God, she's a meditation teacher. She's teaching manifesting. I'm like, but wait, I'm a meditation teacher and I teach manifesting. And there was like a half of a second that I was like, but wait, that's my identity, or that's my lane, or that's the thing that I'm doing. And I was like, Emily, like, what the fuck? And it was just so funny, like the identity attachment. Because I think you're so amazing and so successful. And like there was this little piece of me that was like, but how are you going to be different? And I was like, well, what if you did the exact same thing? Like, great. The world needs more meditation teachers and more manifestation teachers. And there's no way that the Cathy Heller frequency can be in competition with the Emily Fletcher frequency, because they are so infinitely unique. And we could be saying the exact same thing and resonate with totally different people. And I don't really know where I'm going, but I just love you
No,
and I
I
think you're
mean,
amazing.
first of all, it's so beautiful and awesome and humble and human, because our humanness feels separate from God, from our godliness, and our soul is like, oh my God, I'm in the equanimity all the time because I'm a wave in the ocean, right? And so yes, yes, that is a very healthy, actually, thought that comes from the mind, right? Meaning it's very usual. There's nothing unusual about that thought. And also, we are all one. So it's like every oneness is not sameness, right? Like you look at the periodic table of elements, and copper is not boron and silver is not gold. And yet those are all different ways in which the divine flows through, right? So
Mhm.
there's a portal in Sedona and people love going there, and it's very different than India, but India has its own flavor and people go to India to get a different kind of hit of connecting with God. And then people go to Jerusalem and that's a different kind of hit, but it's kind of the differences make the oneness, right? We were at my friend Heidi's farm and she was showing us that the way that you garden, she's been learning how to garden, is the diversity amongst makes things actually grow better. So she has sunflowers next to arugula, next to asparagus, next to broccolini, next to lavender.
Wow.
And that is actually the farming, is the diversity is actually. And so there is the specificity, right? Like if you look at the orchestra, the triangle is not the bassoon and the violin is not the cello. And they might be playing the same song, but they're completely different experiences. And one fun way that I love to think about that is when we were growing up and there was that amazing moment of We Are the World and that song. And I remember being in like kindergarten and everyone was like singing that song. And my sister and I have this game we play where we will listen to We Are the World. And then without looking, right, just listening, not looking at YouTube, just listening, she'll say, Huey Lewis, Cyndi Lauper, Willie Nelson. Like we'll call out who's singing which part and we like can tell, right? And even though these are people living at the same part of history, mostly like, you know, living similar lives, so to speak, the timbre and the frequency is so different. Like Ray Charles is on that song and you go, oh my God, what else do we need? Ray Charles. But then Stevie Wonder comes on the same song and you go, whoa, 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 wait a minute. That's totally different. And then Billy Joel takes the mic and you go, wait, that's totally different. And Michael McDonald takes the mic and you go, that's totally different. And so the exact same song,
Same words, same notes.
same words, same notes, completely and totally unique. And there is a place for every single one of those pieces because God, in its infiniteness, shows its face through all these different colors, which is what makes it so magical, which is why we need all these different people. And the people who can hear you and really hear you don't necessarily hear me. And the people that can hear me are meant to be the people who can hear me, and so on and so on and so on. And ultimately, we're all doing the exact same thing, which is pointing everyone back to them. And that's the most unique thing, is that we're really just we're pointers. We're saying like, you have within you the hero, and all of us get to keep walking each other home to that.
It's like it's so sort of almost cheesy because it's been said so many times, but it's just so true as the mirror, right? It's like I am just here to point that back at you so that you remember that you are God pretending to be human. Yeah, so beautiful. So, you know, you're going through a bit of death portal of sorts with the fire in your home. I am moving through a very massive death portal in my life. We talked about the death of your father. Mine is not actual death, but a breakup, moving, leaving the city. My roommate, the main source of revenue at Ziva went to zero. I got sick. My son got sick. My dog died. Like, it was just like everything I could hitch my identity to just started dissolving, dissolving, dissolving. And it's been about 6 or 7 months now. And I finally feel like I'm sitting Shiva inside myself. Like, this weekend, I just did nothing. I had no son here, no boyfriend, like, I was just with myself for 3 days. And moms know that, like, 3 days of nothingness is like a fucking miracle. And I felt like on the last night of this, look, I get it that 3 days is absurd amount of stillness, but it was a lot for me. But on the third night, I pulled this Isis card, and it was like the dawning of the new sun. And it's literally Isis nursing, because it was so funny that you started this with saying nursing. And it's like, you've been through an extraordinarily painful time, and now you're moving through to like this dawning of this new day. And it feels true. It feels like I'm coming out of this death portal. We'll see if that's true. But I'm sharing this because it feels like the death portal would be the last thing I would choose for myself. It's been fucking excruciating, terrifying, confronting. And the hardest part is facing my shadow, not only my shadow, but my darkness, like the ways that I have hurt people and manipulated people and lied to people and stolen, like looking my darkness in the face in the way that I never have before. And I think that that's actually why you responded to my frequency differently. Like, yes, the move, but I think more like facing my own shame and finding love inside of the parts of myself that I'm ashamed of, finding safety inside of the parts of me that are the most terrified. And while it has been so excruciating, I can see that it has been the initiation of my life and likely the spiritual evolution of my life so far. And I'm sharing that, one, because I'm proud of myself. Like, I'm proud of myself that I've like fucking
I'm so proud of you. It brought me to tears 4 minutes ago. I'm so proud of you and so in awe. And by the way, this is so the path of the warrior. Like, this is it. It's so interesting. We have so much that's happening to both of us that's in common right now. My husband and I separated a month after my dad passed in August.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that was really powerful because what I realized is my husband is my best friend, period, but not my romantic partner. And it's been that way a long time. And a part of that is because when I got married, having had parents that got divorced and having had the journey that I had had as a child, I chose a little boy and a best friend who could keep me feeling that I could be with someone who wasn't quite in his power, because I would be afraid of being with a man who was in his power. And so then I became his mother, which is what he had, a smothering mother. And that feeling of being in control in the relationship kept me from having to feel the fear I would face if I was with someone who could really be in their power, which means eventually I actually grew to a place where I was in my power and I was ready to be with somebody who was in theirs. And so for 8 years, I've been knowing that like I've outgrown this and I need to set him free, set myself free. And it's really so gorgeous. And it makes so much sense why I felt that from you. And I'm sure you're friendly with Peter Crone. I'm sure you know Peter.
I've actually never met him. I know of him. He's just been showing up in my Facebook feed very recently.
So I just have to share this with you, that he told me this story, which is so powerful, about a breakup he went through. And it was years ago. And he said that he lost his parents in an accident when he was a younger person. So he had a lot of grief and a lot of abandonment and a lot of feeling of needing outside of himself what he didn't realize was addiction to people. So he would feel at ease because he had such abandonment issues. And he went through a breakup and he was totally dysregulated, obsessed with this woman, heartbroken, to the point where he's a coach. He was like, this isn't okay. This is not at all okay that I am not anywhere close to feeling equanimity because this person's not in my life. It revealed to him how much he had outsourced his power and how much he didn't love her as much as need her, which is really an addiction and really dangerous, and how much he had been dimming his light and manipulating to be someone that she would choose rather than to be in his wholeness. And so it dawned on him that he had to finally come correct with himself. And he said he had this moment where he was sitting at his desk and he put his hand on his heart and he felt into and leaned into the edges at which he was not being honest in order to keep the relationship, and then just allow himself to find the power that actually resides in him. And he had this moment where he felt this freedom for the first time. He was free from being attached to needing this outside of himself because he found it inside of himself. And he started noticing that he could make space for the brokenness in him. He could love it. And therefore, if he could love it, he didn't need so much for someone to reassure him and love him, right? 10 minutes later, after 2 months of not hearing from her, she called him and said, I miss you. I want you back. 10 minutes after he had this breakthrough. And he said to me when she called, he said, everything in my body knew. I said to her, you won't believe this. Had you called me 11 minutes ago, I would have had this huge reaction. He goes, I now know that this is so unhealthy. And if we're meant to be together, it will be. But for now, we really need to hold where we don't have a relationship. They never spoke again. It wasn't meant to be. And all that we really want, it's not what we're holding on so tightly to. It's what we want is to have the wholeness within, that we no longer hold tightly to any of these identities, and we fully embrace and fully find the reclaiming of like really just getting to fully love and honor and be in our beingness. And once that happens, then we're really okay. And then any relationship or anything that comes in is like, it gets to be truthful, and it gets to be unattached, and it gets to be walking beside each other. And yeah, I can feel that in you, that shift. And I can feel it in myself, the being willing to stop running from who I am. And it's time. And it's so beautiful.
Wow, Cathy, I just want to celebrate you that, I mean, 3 kids, 4 dogs, launching a book, home burning down, divorce. Like, that's a lot to handle all at once. Even if you are God pretending to be human, like you are still a human, and that's a lot to handle. And you're doing a great job. And I'm sure sometimes it's really hard. And
I think it's like the leading up to telling yourself the truth is what's hard.
oof.
It's like not letting yourself know the truth is the hard part. Once you know the truth, you realize if this is the truth and everything in my being knows it's the truth, then actually this is what sets everybody free.
Wait, so I think you'll like this story. My ex-husband and I, and my son's father, he's an amazing man. He's an amazing father. Yeah, point, full stop. He just wasn't my man. But we have been in deep work, therapy, coaching, couples counseling. I think at one point we had 7 therapists and coaches. Like I was just like, somebody tell me it's okay to stay. Like I was just like looking for someone to tell me it was okay to stay. And so another coach, another therapist, another medicine journey. And then finally, I hired a tarot card reader and did a tarot card reading. And about an hour and a half in, she's talking about my career. She's talking about my creativity. She's talking about my son. And finally I was like, can I ask about my marriage? And she goes, what marriage? And I was like, the one that I'm in. And she's like, oh no, that ended 3 years ago. And everything in my body was like, that is the truth. That is the truth. And I asked for a divorce 3 days later. And so it was like, it was a tarot card reader. But to your point, it's like I was fighting the truth for so long that once it was like, once my body could feel it, it was like, okay, new reality.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we'll see what happens. Like we're in this period of like, we're just going to really give each other the space to just be and completely unattached. Like I want him to be happy. And if it leads to, okay, we're officially going to end it, then we are. But right now it's just, it's just, we're a soul family. We're no longer like in the marriage. Right. So it is a version of that already. And my friend Mark Grove said to me, you know, it's so gorgeous is when you liberate yourself, you basically stopped doing this thing where you didn't trust the person with the truth. And now all of a sudden you're willing to say, I trust you with the truth. And then who did they get to choose to be? And what gets to be true for them? Because you're no longer in the dance. So
Hey, this feels like maybe my new affirmation is like trust people with the truth. Trust people with the truth.
yeah,
Trust people with your truth, because I am definitely like recovering codependent, recovering people pleaser, which is just manipulating people so that I can avoid feeling my feelings. And so it's like
I
trust
totally get
people
that.
with your truth. Trust people with your truth feels like something I want to get a little temporary tattoo of on my arm.
Oh, it's so amazing. It's like so often the reason we're so exhausted is because we put a lid on and put ourselves in this position where we just don't give ourselves the freedom to be authentic. And authenticity is the secret to manifestation, because authenticity is wholeness. When you are authentic, you are surrendering trying to be attached to how people perceive you, right? And so when you are just authentic, you will manifest. That's why authenticity is such a powerful vibration.
Well, I just learned that the truth or authenticity is actually a higher vibration even than love, which was
Exactly.
news to me. And so that would make sense that if you're in the frequency of truth and authenticity, that you would manifest more because you're vibrating at a different frequency, a higher frequency.
Because authenticity is the most loving version of love. Because if you are just authentic, it means you're giving everyone else permission to do that too, which means there's space for everyone to be who they are, which is real wholeness. And wholeness is, I'm not trying to control you. I don't need you to subscribe to me or cosign. I'm just going to be me, which means we can actually really belong. Because if the only way I've ever belonged to anyone is to self abandon,
And I don't belong to anyone.
and also that's manipulating, because that's not real love. If I'm only showing you one version of myself, it's like the alphabet. Obviously, if that's love, it comes at way too high a cost. It's like
Oof.
you can't belong to anyone if you no longer belong to yourself. So then you actually, it's like a slow suicide, right? Versus this is me. This is who I came here to be. And if for some reason it inspires you, great. And if for some reason it triggers you, that was the divine order of things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not questioning who God made me to be. There's a reason that I'm supposed to be this in the world, in your life. And if you're triggered, maybe that's the blessing. Like I remember 5 years ago when Heidi moved to the farm, I saw her post on Instagram that she was getting off Instagram, moving to a farm, and I threw my phone against the room and I said to myself, who is she to do that? And I was so triggered. And that was her gift to me, because she was
Wait,
triggered
why was it triggering to you? Why were you mad?
because
Because
I
she,
wanted to give myself permission to exhale and to slow, do the slow living and all
yeah.
of that. And so people triggering us, people being authentic is their job. It's our job. And that's why it really is love, because it puts everything into divine order. It's like the Mary Oliver, you don't have to be good. You don't have to walk on your knees for thousands of miles. When you just choose to stop pretending to be anything other than what you are, you give everyone permission to do that too. So then the love is the highest version of love, because it's everybody moving in their wholeness, saying what they really mean to say, being as they are. And that wholeness is it's so lovely to be around people who've
Mm.
arrived at their own door, because
Yeah.
ultimately love around us is a reflection of the love within us. So if you're not in authenticity and wholeness, then you're withholding love from yourself, which means you can't really be that loving. But if you're in authenticity and wholeness and you're just who you are, and you're willing to say who you voted for, you're willing to let the chips fall, you're willing to be whoever you need to be, even if that means you stand out and you don't fit in. It's like that really is loving to everyone, because that's a person who's not needing you to fill in the scarcity and emptiness and lack that they have. They're saying, no, I'm choosing it. And then they literally put that in the field, right? Which is why
Mm.
we all loved going to see Wicked a million times. It's like, that's the choice. It's like, I'm choosing to be aware that I am the wizard. And we all are. And we're all so much more powerful than we know. And when people stop needing to be liked and they live authentically, they remind everybody that wizard lives in everyone. So every time we see someone who lives authentically, every time you picture the girl, the Parisian girl riding a bicycle with a baguette and her hair is sweaty and she's the most beautiful woman you've ever seen because she's just letting herself be the fully authentic person. You're like, thank you for modeling that. That's who I really want to be. I really didn't want to stay with the guy who I needed to pretend to be someone in order to stay with and manipulate. I really just
Yeah.
wanted to be fulfilled and expressed.
Oh, it's so beautiful. So, can you give us a window into the book, like Abundant Ever After? Like, why did you write it, and what can people get out of it? I think I love what Marianne Williamson said. She said, "Imagine if you could take the warmest, wisest woman possible, one who dispenses the greatest advice with eloquence and ease, and turn her into a book. Well, that's the book you have in your hands." And
Oh,
I just like, what an amazing testimonial.
that was so
So,
kind. Really, 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 really kind. And she said to me, she's like, when I just read this book, she goes, I really needed this message because at the end of the book, I talk about why in Jewish wisdom every morning there's like a set of blessings, and one of them is to pray to be like a rooster. And that was the part she loved, and that's how the book ends, because she said, listen, everyone needs that blessing. And the blessing is, the word daven means to pray. Why do we pray to be like a rooster? And it's because the rooster is the first one on the farm who has the insight to know that just when the night can't get any darker, at that split second, the light is about to break. And the rooster is the one that crows and says, don't you see it? That's just the beginning of the story. The light is here. The dawn is breaking. So for us to be roosters in this world means that we are always able to see further and to understand that this darkness is the invitation to reveal the light, right? The darkest months of the year, the month of Kislev, which is the month of Hanukkah, why is that the month of brightness and light when it's the darkest days of the year, the shortest days of the year? The days that are the shortest means the days that don't have as much sunlight. No, because it's the darkness that's the invitation to reveal the light. Because if you light a candle in a dark room, one little candle, boom, so powerful. If you light a candle in the noonday sun in June on a Tuesday, you can't even see it. So we are here for these moments where we're like, no. This is the moment that's inviting me to be the light. I am the light in these darkest days. I am that. That's why I was put here. And then the potency of us just doing good, being in flow is the answer. So I wrote this book because ultimately that is, if Wayne Dyer is correct that we don't get what we want, but we get what we are, then you have to know that you are abundance, right? Because if you are someone, you're some of the one. If you're a masterpiece, a piece of the master, as Rabbi Aaron says, then you are by definition abundance. And so if you really know, not I am Cathy Heller, but I am, you are the I am, that is your soul. It's beyond space. It's beyond time. Then you will always get back what you are, because you will be in connection to this one infinite field, and you will just continue to perceive it. And as we talked about on your show the last time, it's like the word Kabbalah means to receive. And therefore, it's like the radio station is inside of you, and you are meant to keep tuning to the radio station of what your heart is always playing, which is a love song, which is overflow, which is flow state, which is creativity, which is synchronicity, which is blessing, which is the equanimity and passion and compassion and resourcefulness and all of that. It's like, if that's the music you tune to every day, which is why I wrote the book, to help you tune to it, all that you will hear in the field, all that you will experience, you will just keep selecting the next most abundant experience, because as above, so below. If that's the music that plays from you, that's all that you will experience all the time. So the book is moving you back into that which you are, so that you can have the experience inside of you be reflected outside of you.
Yeah, it's so clear when you say it, that just like there is this fabric of reality, there just is abundance. And if you believe that you are a wave on the ocean, then you are that fabric of infinite possibility and abundance. And so it's just coming back to that and back to that. And thank you for the prayer of the rooster. I mean, that's what just happened the other night. I was like in the middle of the night, in the middle of my death portal. And I was like, a little afraid of what card I was going to pull. And it was like, oh, it's the dawning of the new sun. And it really felt like I was in the darkest of the darkness. And we're about to really head into that in the United States in a way that I don't think that any of us have ever seen before in our lifetimes. And I think to just hold this prayer of the rooster is going to be really, really important for people to keep putting their attention on what is it that we want to birth? Like, how bright can I shine inside of this darkness? And not even to judge the dark as bad, but it's just dark, right? And it's an opportunity to shine, shine, and shine, and to then to celebrate what we call in the Vedas the Navaswan, which is the breeze that precedes the dawn. And it's always circumnavigating the globe. And it's just this like, it's like the temperature change before the sun even hits the dawn. And it feels like that's what that crow is tuning into before you can see it. It's like that, oh, I'll believe it when I see it, or I'll see it when I believe it. It's like the breeze is the believing it, and that is required in manifestation.
Totally. I mean, my family, my sister, my family live in Jerusalem. And then we had this fire here. And I was texting her and I'm like, well, it's nothing like what you've experienced in the last year. And then she said something so wise. She goes, no, it's all connected. The world is on fire. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? And then I realized that the beauty of that is that the opposite of depression is not happiness, it's purpose. Mm. And we are being called into purpose.
Yeah.
We are being reminded that our being gets to be significant every day. And I look at what just happened in Los Angeles, and for all of the joy that people thought they had 3 weeks ago, if you were to just take a moment, which we've all done a little bit, and just perceive for a second how much community has just been evoked, how much kindness, how much beauty, how much people now want to give and love and show up for each other, and how much they want to rebuild and share and connect. The purpose that also is, it's the yes and, it's the both and, right? It's the John Kabat-Zinn full catastrophe living. Things are as they are. Like, yes, the earth. Yes, the loss. Yes, and. What was the and? The humanity that showed up, the purpose that was found, the ways people became heroes. I had lunch with my friend Rachel yesterday, and she brought me to tears because she told me she ran back to help someone else's home, took literally a hose herself to her friend's house and stood there and literally got sprayed on with a helicopter with the chemical red retardant, right? And she was willing to do it to help her friend. And I'm like, oh my God, who did you become in that moment? I go, when you're 120 and you go to heaven and you look back at your life at all these moments that you showed up, that moment. And we were both like weeping. And she's like, I know, in the moment I was compelled. I had to help her. Anyway, the point of the point is that we think we came here to be comfortable, put our feet up on the ottoman and drink a margarita. No, we came to show ourselves, our capacity, our power, our spiritual truth. And when you're in seasons like this, you are on the front lines every day. Every single day, you get to contribute, change the world for one person, find your way to a greater possibility, which we signed up for this. You know, the Talmud says that every soul saw exactly what life would look like and volunteered for the mission and signed on the dotted line. So we will look back when we get to heaven and say, I'll do it again. Because the more we're needed, the more contrast there is, it allows us to play full out. When you're a child and you're playing a game that you've already played, it's not fun. You want to be stretched. You want to be asked to find inside of you new resources, new ways to solve problems, new ways to innovate. When I was living in Jerusalem, I mean, we used to talk about the days of like the messianic time and like what's to come. And I was like, won't I be bored if everything's perfect? Like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm here to be in purpose. Like, I want, and my rabbi's like, no, you'll see, you'll have a feeling of like fulfillment in a different way, but there will come a time, right? It doesn't matter about that. That's not our assignment right now. Our assignment is knowing we've been assigned for this exact moment in time, and we're co-creating it together, and every one of us is needed. And in that feeling of being needed, there's a tremendous amount of fulfillment.
Amen. Cathy, I love you. I'm so glad.
I love you.
Shining your light so bright, and just I want to get your own church, and I want everyone to get your book, Abundant Ever After. Where else? Like, where can people get it? Where can people find you? Where can people receive more of the goodness of Cathy?
You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Target. You can get it wherever you want in your local bookstore. And thank you. And you're such a joy. You are a dance party. You are stunning inside and outside. And I'm so honored that you so generously and humbly share what is happening in your experience. And I have zero doubt that it's the initiation of you really getting to fully feel how much actually is who you really are and what you've been pretending to be. If that's even an indication, like, I don't even think you've scratched the surface. So it's very exciting to see this crucible and what will emerge.
I,
Oh, it's beautiful.
yeah. I feel that. Thank you for that blessing. And so it is. Thank you for being a walking example of what's possible when you tune into the field of magic and abundance and generosity. Thank you for reminding us that when we're feeling out of sorts, we can take a simple action and buy someone a dessert or give someone a smile, or, that we don't want to be successful. We want to be significant. Is that what you said? We don't want
Yeah, we're
success, we want
not chasing
significance.
success, it's significance that we want. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. And then from that significance, of course, comes a success. So I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you for being a
Yeah.
second time guest. I'm already excited for the third. And yeah, and congratulations on the book. The world needs it. I'm excited to dive in more. And I'm going to be in an Easter egg hunt. I wonder where she mentions me.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You'll see.
Fun. All
Thank
right. And
you
anywhere else
for
you want to send people other than the book right now?
when you go to the book, there's like cathyheller.com/more, and there's like free meditations there and things that you can use as resources. So that's also fun to check out.
Okay, great. cathyheller.com/more. Okay. We love you. Have an
I
amazing
love
day. Thank you for
you.
being a
I love you,
guest.
Emily. Thank you. To be continued.
Yeah, and also let's just hang out.
Yeah,
I don't want
do
to
that.
just schedule a podcast for us to hang out.
Yes.
But I'm
Amen.
glad that everyone got to listen in on our catch-up session. All right, sweet friends. I hope you enjoyed this amazing episode with Cathy Heller. As you can see, she is a walking, breathing font of knowledge and wisdom. And I'm so excited for you to check out her book, Abundant Ever After. If you enjoyed this conversation, which I'm sure that you did, just screenshot it and then tag us on Instagram. Tell us what you learned. Share this media as medicine. Let's all be the roosters together. Let's remind people that we get to birth heaven on earth, even in the midst of hell. I love you. I love you. I love you. I will see you. Not that this is hell, but you know what I mean. We can create whatever reality we want in whatever circumstances we are experiencing.
Yes.
All right, sweet friends, we will see you next week on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?